All right, hey everybody, I'm just going to highlight a quick problem that I'm having with Blender, and specifically in regards to the object track constraint. So I actually submitted this first part as a bug report, but when I added the bone constraint right here and I said add bone constraint object solver, initially it jumps to a new position like the constraint's working, but then when you play back the animation, it doesn't move at all. It doesn't copy any of the rotation or anything. So I then instead added the object solver constraint to this cube right here. And as you can see, I parented then this bone. If we go to the bone constraints, it's the child of the cube 1 right here. So as we move the cube around, it moves the head around. And if we go in here to the graph editor, we can see there's no keyframes for this, and yet when we play it, and there you can see the footage in the background of my lovely puppet creation, which is what we're using for tracking with a glove and a bunch of erasers. So that's what we're tracking. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off so I have a faster update. But here you can see as I play this back, Alt-A, you can see the head rotates around with the puppet, just like it should. The reason, obviously, constraint here and the parenting here. So, what happened is I actually shot this footage in 60p, and I wanted to put it into a 24p animation. When I shot it, I thought, hey, maybe if I shoot those extra frames, the 60 frames a second, it's going to give me a little bit more, I don't know, data in between frames and make that motion look a little bit smoother. Mainly with the motion blur, I just thought, you know, if an object stops in between frames and starts going a different way, it's going to look a little bit different than if you have every single keyframe directly on a frame. So that's why I shot it in 60p, and I thought, oh, it'll probably be easy if we go over here to the to motion tracking. Oh, there you can see my lovely face. Anyway, so yeah, so I figured it would probably be easy somewhere in here to change it over, you know, somewhere in the clip settings or whatever, to map a 60p track into 24p footage. But I was not able to find that setting anywhere in the motion tracker. So I went to the next part. So I thought, okay, maybe if I go up here to the render settings and I remap, well, first I thought, oh, maybe if I change it to 24 frames a second here, it will change it. It didn't have any effect on the actual playback of the animation, which makes sense to me. I didn't really think it was going to work, but I figured I'd try it. So I thought, oh, time remapping. There we go. Original was 60 frames a second. I want it to go to 24 frames a second. And then now each one of those 60 frames is now compressed into the 24, and we're golden, right? Yes, it actually works that way, except that in my more complex setup that I'm actually using this in, I have a cloth simulation, and if I run that cloth simulation, it treats it still as if it's original 60p. So what you get is the animation's a little faster because it's compressing those keyframes into 24 frames, but as his arms move forward of my character, the cloth then follows well behind because it's going at about 40% of the speed. You know, I thought about doing a frame step. I thought, well, you could slow it down just a little bit instead of doing, or I guess it would be speeded up. Instead of doing 40%, we'll just do 50%. That way I can just render every other frame. Rendered it out. Maybe it was just because I was being critical because I was looking for it, but it just didn't look quite right. And then the audio didn't match up. I'd have to redo the audio, the voice for the character. So that gets us to here where I was like, well, maybe I will just bake this action into the F curves here in the graph editor, and then I'll just scale down all those keyframes from 60 to 24. Then we'll have all those 60 keyframes in the 24 frames, if that all makes sense, hopefully. So great, perfect, easy peasy. I probably should have done that in the first place. So right here, constraint to F curve. And this is where I was really starting to get frustrated. When I hit constraint to F curve, you'll see I have just under 80 frames tracked of animation. And when I hit constraint to F curve, what in the world? It only goes to 30. Well, wait a minute, hold on. Still have this set, so let's go back to this. Well, first let's undo the bake, and let's change this back to 100, because I actually had this the first time, and I didn't even mean to this time, but, so I thought, oh, maybe that was it. So go back to the constraint, and constraint's F-curve. Still only 32 frames. Undo that. Frame range is, I've tried extending the frame range out to here. It's like maybe it only uses a certain amount of it. Nope, same thing, 32. And I have no idea why. I can't figure that one out. And that's where I'm stuck now. If I go back to the motion tracking, it gets to up here. Where are we at? Sorry, it takes a little bit of time to load this footage. It's high resolution. So look, we're all tracked to 79 frames. There's a little bit of a solve error, but that's okay because it's just a demo. I'm just messing around with it. I'm not actually going to track this this way. But yeah, it's all tracked. 80 frames or 79 frames of tracking. It's all applied, and like I said, when I go back here to the default, and we don't have that baked, it moves all 80 frames. It works fine, 79 frames. If we hit animation, there it is. It's moving around, and if we look at the footage, I can let it play through once here. Let's see what, and you can at least see that, sure enough, yeah, it's following it very well. Looks very good, just as it should. Head tilts right there, and then yeah, at 79 frames it stops. There, I do my hand motion, which is actually what I'm going to track for this shot. But yeah, as you can see, it seems to be working fine. But then convert to F-curve, and we only have 32 frames. So, not sure why. That's what I wanted to show. See if anybody had an idea of why that might be. And so, appreciate you guys watching. Let me know if you have any feedback on this and can give me a reason why this is happening. That would be great. And appreciate it. And have a good one.